Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Businesses need to learn how to tackle racism, but within their own ranks, among their own employees, and hiring, and in society as a whole. Joining me to discuss how companies can open dialogue with Black employees is Dwayne Bryant, founder and CEO of InterVision International. Dwayne, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Hey, Jill, it's absolutely a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You got it. And Black Lives Matter and the fight for racial equality has seen the most support during the summer of 2020 than we have experienced in the past. Do you think this is a longer lasting movement? Simply participating in the media moment is very different than making true corporate structural change.
Sure. Well, I mean this sincerely. I hope it's not a long-lasting movement. And I say that because the purpose of movement is to implement structural change. For instance, in 1776, there was looting, there was rioting, there was burning of things because the British who had just come over wanted freedom from the British government. So once that quote-unquote movement ended with the Declaration of Independence, therefore there was no need to do rioting and looting. So I say I hope it's not a long-term movement, because I hope that equality, I hope that human rights are being recognized in America. And I hope that the systemic racism, that's whether it's in criminal justice, sometime in business, sometime in education, et cetera, I really hope that America can do better and that we understand that we're all human beings.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And why is it beneficial for companies to build more diverse and inclusive workforces?
Sure, there's many studies that have been done. I just recently watched one by Dr. Catherine. She's a senior dean at Columbia School of Business, and she's showing that innovation is stronger when you have diverse groups. She also showed that when she compared different test groups with the diverse populations versus the homogeneous populations, the diverse populations outperform the homogeneous populations consistently. So there's a lot of value in diversity. There's a lot of groupthink in diversity, whereas when you have the homogeneous groups, you have more echo chambers. It's the same ideas, the same things, the same values. And I know personally that when you do have that diversity, you get a wealth and a depth of opinions, experiences, and then different products and outcomes.
Well, Dwayne, facilitating these types of conversations, it's not always easy. Some may find it uncomfortable, and don't know how to be an effective ally.
Yeah.
How can companies open up dialogue in a more effective way with Black employees?
Sure. Well, I would say companies need to open up the dialogue, but not just with Black employees, but white employees as well. Because when we look at the history of America, when we look at racism, it was a structural system. And Black people, we didn't implement that system, but we were forced to understand how to navigate within that system. So usually in your corporations, the gatekeepers, the managers are usually white. And so therefore it has to be a constructive dialogue between Black and whites. However, when that dialogue happens, white people can't feel guilty. They can't feel afraid to be able to open and share. And then on the reverse of that, Black people have to have a little bit more, I guess, tolerance, because right now, as we see across America, tolerance is at an all-time low. So if someone asks a question that we just think is stupid, we just don't want to be bothered with it because we're so used to it. So I think companies must be able to really bring in professionals who can help navigate those conversations, because it may be too difficult to do on the inside.
Why should policymakers make mentoring and education a focus in underserved areas to help improve career paths?
Sure, that's a great question as well. You're hitting 1,000 right now. I think policymakers should make mentoring mandatory, because I can say this. When I left the corporate world, Johnson & Johnson, I actually began mentoring programs. And I can say without any doubt, we had demonstrated results: 35% increase of test scores, 70% reduction in suspensions, eliminated expulsions, quadruple parental involvement. Those results came because of the work that we were doing in the schools. And here's what's interesting. In a lot of urban cities, inner cities, they don't see people like you and I, Jill. They don't see people like your colleagues, because they don't realize that attainable. So if the policies make it policy, then it will be good. But corporations don't have to wait for that. I mean, we have developed a system where we can engage companies can engage schools, they can adopt a school, and really be able to show these young people, especially during the time of e-learning, how they can become better people: goal setting, time management, conflict resolution, et cetera. So corporations are powerful enough that they don't have to wait for policymakers. And I can tell you this is so necessary in our communities, because our young people many times don't even know we exist.
Right. And Dwayne, that's a perfect point that you make, because in the course of what I do for Trade Talks, I spend a lot of time researching and learning and teaching financial literacy. It's something
Mm.
that's the most important thing that I cover at Nasdaq. I really take it to heart. And a lot of times what we come up with is this question, Dwayne: how do you tackle the issue of technology and accessibility for underserved communities? Because you might have the desire, but if you can't get access to that technology or the hardware or to the classes, you can't move up. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. So, for instance, some of my school districts in Florida and some of the ones in Chicago, South and West suburbs, some of the biggest problems when COVID hit, almost 25 to 30% of the young people did not have the access to the technology, whether it's iPads at the home or the computers at the home. Most did not even have printers at the home. I know Chicago is doing some innovative things with the government, with different companies, that they're providing internet services like for 150,000 students who may not have had it. In addition to that, though, but they have to be able to have the devices at home. And I know Apple, from what I understand, they committed to $100 million. I don't know what form that is, if that's products or supplies going into the homes, but I think companies can do a great job in helping to lower that gap in terms of the technology gap. So I think it's necessary.
All right, Dwayne, thanks so much for joining us on Trade Talks. I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.